So today we're going to look at the actual resource stuff that you're going to need. You need to have two different resources. Okay, so we're looking at online articles, scholarly journals, books, things like that. Okay, you must have one piece of textual evidence from each of those sources. Textual evidence means a direct quote from the article, book, or whatever. Okay, so you need to have a direct quote, something directly stated in that text. So I would like to pull up two things. I'm going to show you how I would do the research for my particular paper, which deals with the importance or value of reading among youth. I like to start off by having a blank Word document. This will be where I put notes or links or things like that. And then I have some Google stuff up. In this case, I have Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a great source to use. It pulls up only online scholarly journals. Some things will be easier, some things will be more difficult. Some of you might just end up using regular Google, and that is also fine. But this is a good starting place if you don't know where to begin. Now remember, when you do an online article or any online source, it has to be credible. So it can't be Wikipedia because anybody can edit it. It can't be sources similar to that. So it needs to pass the CRAP test. This is something that we did in your notebooks ages ago. So CRAP stands for current, so how recent was it published? Reliability, so like can we rely on the actual source itself? Authoritative, so is the author an authoritative figure on their topic? I can talk to you about English all day long, but I am not an authoritative figure on math. Okay, and then you also have to analyze the purpose or point of view, like why are they giving you this information? What is the purpose for them telling you about this? Okay, so I'm going to start with some Googling of things. You want to stick with either small words or phrases, so like importance of reading among youth, and then I would scroll through. And the way I like to do research is I like to pull up 15-ish tabs of information, and then I have a lot to work with. So like here I'd go through, sometimes I read the title, sometimes I'll read like the actual link itself, and then sometimes I look at the date, and then I'll read a little blurb, okay? So you don't need to click on every link because not every link is going to be good for you. Now, I have been doing this long enough that I know what are good and bad sources, and I'll show you how to do that as well. And if it's not on the first page, that doesn't matter. You know, click, go through, scroll to the next page, okay? So you might kind of look among all those different resources, okay? I could do the value of reading. Maybe I want specifically an infographic. So if you're looking for a keyword, you do a plus sign, and then that will pull up anything that deals with value of reading and infographic. If you want to make sure like you don't have something, you do a minus sign, and then you don't do a space, and you might type infographic. And then it will make sure it does not show you anything relating to infographics. I have benefits of reading. I might have why you should read, okay? So I have already pulled up a ton of different sources here, so I'm going to show you a few of them. So in this particular case, I have the JSTOR. The JSTOR is an awesome resource to use. You may or may not have access to some of the material. It is an online scholarly database. This is something that my college professors and the librarians told me, like, hey, you should use this. So essentially, this is like books scanned in, okay? So you can subscribe to it for $20, which we're not going to do because that would be silly. Or you can read online for free. If you click on it, in this case, it is going to ask you to log in, and sometimes it will say like using a personal account or access through your library or college, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm too lazy to do that right now. But it tells us like the page numbers of this book, so we're looking at 213 to 218. It's published by the National Council of Teachers of English. This is a great resource to use. You know, it's teachers teaching teachers. So the great thing about some of these online databases is, yeah, I might not be able to actually look at it without having to pay or create a login, but they'll sometimes give you a preview. So if you get super lucky, you might have everything that you need on that preview, and then you can just use that and not have to buy a resource. Okay, so this one's a good one. I'm going to hang on to that one. So I have the Scholastic Press here. So looking through, I scan things and I do speed read, so you might not move as quickly, but you don't need to sit there and read through the full article to see if it works. You look for little tidbits that jump out. So like I'm seeing here, so what does research tell us? They develop, right here at the bottom, children read widely and often, they develop higher order thinking skills. So this might be a good resource for me to use. The problem is I do have to recognize Scholastic is biased. They are biased because they sell and make books. Of course they're going to push for reading. So these were several articles I pulled up from the Huffington Post. So these can be pretty good. So what you need to do is when you have an article, you want to actually look up information about the author. So here, educator, activist, and writer, but I want to click on his name to find out more about him. So he's a president and dean, founder and president, founder and CEO. He's an author. He was in Newsweek. Okay. I have actually already done some additional research to learn more about him, and I've learned he is a good source for me to use on this topic. So once again, I might scroll through. I might look for things like here are some studies, but these just talk about like what novels actually do. You might have something like this. So it says, award-winning novelist Philip Roth said. So then he's got a whole chunk here taken from this Philip Roth guy. It doesn't matter who said it in the article. You're always still going to go back and cite the original author of the article. Okay. So like, let's say, I like this quote, novels, when done well, are about life and introspection upon the depths of human experience we can all gain from more reflection. So this is where my document comes into handy. So I am going to put this quote, okay? It does need to go in quotation marks because it doesn't belong to me. And then you'll see that I took the period out after the word reflection because we need to move it. And then we're going to type the author's last name. And this is difficult spelling, so I want to make sure that I did it correctly. And then the period goes there. Now that isn't enough. You need to also embed your quote. Embedding can appear, you might say, one author argues, novels, when done well, are about life, blah, blah, blah. You could have the embedding before and after, or the embedding just after. So I think I'm going to go, one author argues that novels, when done well, are about life and introspection upon the depths of human experience we can all gain from more reflection. So this bit right here, that is me. Those are my words. I created that. That was not in the article. So that's my embedding. I have my quote. It's in quotation marks because it doesn't belong to me. I took it directly from the article. And then I have the author's last name. Because this is an online source, unless it is a PDF file of a book or something, I don't have page numbers, so it's just the last name. And if you're lucky enough to not have an author listed, then you typically do the website. Okay. Now I want to make sure that I have access to this web page again later because I'm going to need to have to properly cite my sources. So I like to kind of throw that up there. Okay. And so then I leave more room for additional quotes. Okay. So we'll skip some of these, look back at the article. So I have PBS. So great resource to go with. So I'll kind of scan the article, super short, which isn't necessarily a problem. But a lot of this, especially if you look at these bullet points down here, deal with children with disabilities, which is perfectly fine. I could work that with my article or work with that with my paper. But there's not a lot of information here that actually works for me. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. So I have the importance of instilling a need to read. All right, sounds awesome. So it's by Jonathan Douglas. Sometimes if they don't have information next to the name, there might be information at the bottom of the article. And okay, so is the director of the National Literacy Trust, a charity that transforms lives through literacy. Okay, so this might be a decent resource to use. Let's see if I can click on his name. I cannot. So I would have to like really read through and kind of nitpick this. This might be a good resource. This might not be a good resource. Okay, so one of the links I clicked on, I guess, pulled me back up to Google Scholar. I've looked through these. I would have to refine my search a little bit to find what I'm looking for because none of these are actually going to work specifically for me. All right, 6 science-backed reasons to go read a book right now. So we have Laura Schucker, not sure. Unless you're giving a verbal presentation, it's okay to not know how to pronounce them. So, executive editor, and that is the only information I have on her. I'm not sure this would be a good source for me to use. So here's what I would suggest, especially since it just says that she's an editor, which means she kind of goes through and makes sure that, there aren't kind of crazy things. I would want to see what resources they used for these 6 science-backed reasons. Like they took that from something. So I would want to look at the original study to see what all they came up with. All right. 8 science-backed reasons. So you have an Abigail Wise. Can't click on her name. All right. Apparently there are just multiple reasons. There could be some interesting things here. I have no information about the author at all. So that's a super bummer. So what I could do is sometimes you can search their website. So I could search up Abigail Wise, or I could Google Abigail Wise and see what kind of information I actually come up with. All right, I have Life Hack. All right, so look at this. Mental stimulation, stress reduction, knowledge, vocabulary expansion. Well, these are all things that I am pretty aware of in regards to why it's important to read. Get rid of these little pop-up things. Okay. So let's see what kind of information I can find about our author. All right. Our author is a life hack expert. She's active in communication, lifestyle, and work. And she's a wordsmith. She likes words. That doesn't tell me anything about her. Like, that doesn't tell me, does she have a degree in something? It just means that she likes to write. So life hack is a no-go. All right, so I would look at each of these. And although you are only going to need to have 2 resources for your paper, I would suggest aiming for 4. Try to always aim for 2 or 3 more than you actually need in case one of them doesn't work, okay? Because sometimes you're not going to actually know what your paper is going to be about until you start typing it. So this is essentially how you go about doing your research for your paper, okay? So create your document, and then we save this information here because this allows me to easily do my bibliography, which I will show you how to do a little later, okay? So make sure you're following the MLA format of your paper, and make sure that you are also kind of going through and nitpicking your research. If I see a Wikipedia source, you are going to lose points. It has to be a credible, reliable, current, authoritative, purposeful article. Okay, so make sure that you're using that information to kind of help guide you with this.